In the heart of the Galactic Council's meeting hall, lights flickered like stars trapped in a glass dome. Leaders from across the galaxy sat in a circle, their voices low and nervous. They were not enemies today, but allies facing something far worse. A new signal had arrived, one that made even the most powerful warlords go silent. It was a human signal, calm, quiet, and without threats, yet everyone felt the weight of it. The message was short, almost polite, but no one missed its meaning. Earth was coming. Lena, a young delegate from the Varan Alliance, blinked at the screen in confusion. She was new to the council and did not understand why fear suddenly filled the room. "What is this?" she asked, her voice soft. "It's just a simple broadcast." High Commander Threx of the Vesh Empire leaned toward her, his eyes dark and tired. "You are too young to know," he said quietly, "but I fought them once long ago." He pointed to a scar on his arm, a long white mark that never healed right. "I lost half my fleet in one strike. No warning, no sound, just light and silence." Lena looked around the chamber, noticing how other leaders refused to meet her eyes. She felt a chill down her spine, not from the cold, but from something deeper, unspoken history. "Why is there no record of that battle?" she asked. "There are no records," Threx replied, "because no one survives long enough to write them." At that moment, the chamber lights dimmed again. A new report appeared on the central screen, blinking red. Unidentified ships entering Council space. The room fell quiet, and even the oldest leaders looked unsure. The signal showed a small Earth fleet, but it moved with purpose, straight toward Helver Prime, the capital moon. "They're not even hiding," someone whispered. "They never do." Another voice answered. Council leader Varak, a tall being from the Shur Dominion, stood and raised his hand. "We must vote," he said. "Shall we meet them or prepare for defense?" A soft argument began, but no decision came. Too many races had lost too much to Earth before. Some whispered of broken worlds, shattered moons, and entire fleets erased in seconds. Others said it was just legend, that Earth was no different than any other war power. Lena stared at the signal, her mind racing. She opened her datapad and searched for Earth's war history. Most of it was blank or restricted. But one sentence kept appearing in hidden files. "Do not engage Earth unless prepared for silence." Suddenly, a new signal filled the hall, this one from the outer scout stations. The Earth fleet had increased in size. More ships had decloaked. A command battleship called the Leviathan, followed by 3 smaller vessels. But even the smaller ships were larger than most Council dreadnoughts. "They're here for war," someone said. "But they haven't fired," Commander Threx grunted. "That's how they always begin, quiet." Like a storm gathering, panic started to spread among the delegates. Messages were sent back to homeworlds, telling them to prepare for retreat or defense. Some races began withdrawing ships from allied fleets, not wanting to be caught in Earth's path. Lena felt trapped. She had come here to learn about peace, about diplomacy, but all she saw now was fear, real fear from species that had ruled the stars for centuries. She turned to Threx again, her voice trembling. "Why don't we try to talk to them?" Threx shook his head. "They don't talk during war, only after." "Then we should talk now," she said. "Before anything begins." He gave her a sad smile. "I admire your courage, but we are not the ones choosing anymore. Above them." On hidden satellite feeds, the Earth fleet began to form a line. It was not a blockade or an orbit pattern. It was a formation used in war, in execution, and yet no weapons had been fired. The Council sent a single message. "State your intent." No answer came, just silence. On the Leviathan, far above, Captain Noah Grady stood at the command deck. He said nothing, only stared at the screen. His officers waited for the order, but it did not come yet. Earth had sent them here not to conquer, but to remind the galaxy of a forgotten truth. Earth doesn't start wars, but it always ends them. Back in the council chamber, a cold quiet settled over the room. No one dared to speak, not even Lena, because somewhere deep down, They all understood the same terrible truth. Earth was no longer knocking. It had entered without asking. And now, the galaxy had to hold its breath, far above the capital. Moon Helver Prime, Earth's fleet moved like a silent storm. The lead ship was the Leviathan, a massive battleship made of black armor that looked like it swallowed light. Inside the command center, Captain Noah Grady stood with his arms crossed, watching the screens. He didn't speak much, but when he did, everyone listened. Lieutenant Holly Rivers, his second in command, walked beside him and handed over the latest scan report. "Council fleets are scattered," she said. "They're still trying to organize." Grady nodded, his eyes locked on the moving red dots on the map. "Any transmissions?" he asked. "Just one," she said. "They asked for our intent, but we didn't reply." Grady remained silent for a moment, then said, "Good." The Leviathan was not alone. 3 other Earth ships moved with it: the Reckoner, the Iron Warden, and a stealth destroyer named HFY. Each one had its role. Each one built for a kind of warfare the Council had never seen. The Reckoner carried rail cannons strong enough to pierce planet shields. The Iron Warden was a defense ship with heavy armor, designed to take full fleet fire and stay standing. And the HFY, no one outside Earth knew what it looked like until it was already behind them. The bridge crew watched as Earth's fleet formed a tight triangle formation. It wasn't a warning, it was preparation. Grady finally spoke. "Activate Goliath." The lights dimmed slightly as the ship's AI came online. "Goliath online," said a deep voice, emotionless but sharp. "All systems are within optimal range. Show me Council fleet positions," Grady ordered. The screens filled with ships, hundreds of them, but they looked unprepared, unsure of their formation. Grady could see it clearly. Panic had already set in. "LT." Rivers looked at the data and whispered, "They outnumber us 10 to 1. Grady replied, "Numbers mean nothing if they don't know how to fight." In the weapons bay, the ship's rail cannons rotated into place. Missile tubes opened, revealing silent warheads programmed for stealth strikes. Drone hatches unlocked, holding swarms of AI-controlled fighters that could learn during combat. Far below, on Helver Prime, alien ships scrambled into position. They formed a wall of defense. Above the city's energy towers, thousands of soldiers ran to turrets, locking onto the black shapes in the sky. But Earth ships didn't fire first. They simply hovered, watching. Scanning, learning. Inside the Leviathan, Goliath spoke again. "Council defenses calculated. 78% of ships are poorly shielded." Grady gave a small nod. "Wait for my command." The Reckoner drifted to the left flank, charging its main rail cannon. The Iron Warden took center, its hull glowing faintly with energy shields. The HFY disappeared from the radar, completely silent. Invisible, deadly, Grady leaned over the main console, pressing a button to link with Earth's command on Mars base. "This is Leviathan," he said. "Ready to begin Phase 1. "Confirmed," came the reply. "Proceed at your discretion." He turned to LT Rivers. "Send drones ahead, no weapons. Just flybys." Within seconds, hundreds of small black drones flew from Leviathan's underbelly. They raced toward the Council's defense wall, weaving through enemy radar like smoke. The Council ships fired in panic, trying to shoot them down, but missed again and again. Rivers smiled. "They're wasting power." "Exactly," Grady said. "Let them burn it." The drones recorded everything: locations of shield generators, weak points in ship armor, reaction speed, command delay. All of it sent back to Goliath, who calculated faster than any organic brain could. Then the first shock came not from Earth's weapons, but from the HFY. It reappeared behind the Council's command ship and disabled its engines with a silent burst of MP. The giant Council cruiser went dark, drifting helplessly in space. Panic spread through the alien ranks. Ships began to scatter or reposition, breaking formation. That was the moment Grady had been waiting for. "Target their communication relays," he said. "Cripple them before they regroup." Rail cannons fired with thunder that could be heard even through the vacuum of space. Blue streaks of energy crossed the sky, cutting through enemy ships with surgical precision. One by one, the Council's signal towers exploded, blinding their command network. Missiles followed, but not at random. Each one hit exactly where it needed to. Council ships burned in silence, their crews barely knowing what hit them. Grady never raised his voice. He simply pointed at screens and gave one-word commands. Meanwhile, LT Rivers watched in awe as the battlefield shifted in Earth's favor within minutes. "This isn't war," she said. "It's science." Grady gave a rare smile. "It's design." From orbit, the Council leaders saw their fleets crumble and their hope fade. They sent desperate calls for retreat, but most were already cut off. Inside the Leviathan, Goliath gave the update. "Council resistance has dropped by 40%, Grady replied. "Maintain pressure." But no planetary strikes yet. He did not want to destroy Helver Prime, not yet. Earth was not there to conquer. They were there to send a message, and so far, the message was loud and clear. Inside the Council Hall on Helver Prime, panic spread like fire. The main screen showed Earth's fleet cutting through the defense line with ease. Messages came in fast, requests for orders, updates, cries for help. But no one knew what to say. Ambassadors shouted over one another. Some begged to surrender, while others wanted to strike back. But the truth was clear in every eye. No one had expected this. They believed Earth would come in slowly, negotiate, delay. Instead, the humans came with silence and precision. The president of the council, a tall blue-skinned woman named Kelra, stood in the center. She raised her hand, calling for calm, but even she could barely hide her fear. "Our fleets are falling," she said, "but Helver Prime is still under our control." Someone yelled from the back. Not for long. High above, the Leviathan hovered like a mountain in the sky. It didn't fire at the cities, didn't attack the surface, but it didn't leave either. It just stayed there, watching. Council guards moved quickly to secure the lower levels. They feared an invasion, but nothing came, just silence. Kelra turned to her communication chief. "Send another message. Tell them we're willing to talk." The message went out, simple and respectful, but it received no answer. In the military bunker below the council hall, General Varen, a veteran of many wars, slammed his fist on the table. "They're mocking us," he growled. "They want us to beg." His second officer, a younger alien named Dren, shook his head. "No, sir, I think they're showing restraint." Varen stared at the screen where Earth's fleet held position. What kind of enemy waits after winning? He muttered. Back on the Leviathan, Grady stood at the same position as before. He hadn't moved much, but he didn't need to. Every move had been planned, every weapon tested. Rivers stood beside him, reading reports. "Council ground forces are mobilizing," she said. "They're preparing for a possible drop." Grady nodded. "Let them." He opened a direct line to Earth High Command and gave a simple update. "Helver Prime's fleet is broken. No counterattack detected." Command replied. "Continue observation. Wait for signal to proceed." Meanwhile, the Ashfall reappeared, briefly to disable another key ship before vanishing again. Its crew never spoke, only followed coded orders and disappeared into the black. Below on Helver Prime, soldiers stood at checkpoints with weapons ready. People gathered in shelters, unsure of what was coming. In one part of the city, a group of alien children looked up at the sky. They asked their teacher if the humans would come to hurt them. She couldn't answer in the council hall. Kelra made one last attempt. She opened a public transmission on all frequencies. "This is President Kelra of the Galactic Council," she said, her voice shaking. "We are asking Earth to stand down. For peace, for life." Still, no reply came. Instead, Earth sent something else. Not weapons, but a pod small, smooth and silver. It dropped slowly from the Leviathan and landed outside the council building. Soldiers surrounded it, weapons raised, but the pod didn't open at first. Then with a soft sound, it unfolded, revealing a single screen inside. The screen lit up with words. "This is not war," it said. "This is memory." A video played. It showed old clips of Earth ships destroyed in past encounters. Council attacks on Earth colonies, lost human lives. The video ended with the message, "We remember, even when you forget." Kelra watched with tears in her eyes. It was not just power, it was pain. Earth had not come to conquer. They came to make sure no one forgets again. The council chamber went silent. Even General Varen lowered his eyes, back on the Leviathan. Grady turned away from the screen. "We've done enough," he said. "Now they must decide." Rivers looked uncertain. "What if they don't choose peace?" Grady said nothing for a long time, then replied, "Then Earth will do what it must." The message from the pod stayed on the screen in front of the council building for hours. Citizens came to see it. They stood in silence, watching the faces of humans lost in forgotten battles. For the first time in many years, the Galactic Council felt small. They had ruled for ages, but now they realized they had awakened something that did not wish to rule, only to never be forgotten. The pod shut itself and burned away into dust. No explosions, no demands, just silence again. And in that silence, the council had to choose: submit, speak, or fall. The sky above Helver Prime stayed dark as Earth's fleet held its silent watch. No more shots were fired, no new messages sent. But the fear in the city did not go away. Shops stayed closed, streets were empty, and lights in homes were dim. People waited for something to happen, unsure if they were already at war or at peace. In the military bunker, General Varen paced the floor with growing frustration. "We can't just sit here," he barked. "They're watching us like we're insects." Dren, his younger officer, spoke carefully. "Sir, if we attack now, they'll wipe us out in seconds." Varen slammed his fist on the table again. "I'd rather die fighting than sit and wait for them to decide our future." Back on the Leviathan, Captain Grady received a new update from Goliath. Council troops gathering in West Quadrant. The II reported, "Possible offensive preparation." Grady didn't blink. "They're still hoping they can scare us," he said. Rivers tilted her head. "Should we respond?" Grady looked at the screen for a moment before shaking his head. "No," he said. "Let them make the first move." On the ground, council troops moved into position along the city's defense wall. Heavy plasma cannons rolled into place, and energy shields powered up around key buildings. The plan was simple: wait for Earth's first step and counter with everything they had. Inside the council hall, President Kelra watched the preparations on the monitors. She turned to her advisors. "This is not what I wanted," she said quietly. "We should be talking, not arming," her chief advisor replied. "But they are not talking either." Kelra looked at the still floating Leviathan on the screen. It didn't move, didn't fire, didn't threaten. It just stayed there, like a shadow that never left. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bunker. A fleet from the Varnari Empire had just arrived in the system. They had not been called. They came on their own. Their ships were old, but fast. Armed with high-powered torpedoes and thick armor, General Varen's eyes lit up. They came to help. "US," he said with pride. But Dren wasn't sure. Did we ask them to? The Varnari ships flew past Helver Prime and formed a battle line in front of the Earth fleet. They sent a single message to both sides. "This is Varnari High Admiral Zorn. Earth fleet must leave or face full attack." Back on the Leviathan, the message was received. Grady read it calmly. "No authorization. No coordination," he muttered. "Just ego." "LT." Rivers frowned. "Do we engage?" Grady didn't answer right away. Instead, he said, "Send a warning, just once." A brief signal was sent to the Varnari fleet. It simply read, "Stand down or be removed." On the Varnari bridge, Admiral Zorn laughed. "They don't even bluff properly," he said to his crew. "Fire all forward torpedoes." Torpedoes launched from multiple Varnari cruisers, streaking toward the Leviathan and its escorts. The people on Helver Prime watched the sky light up with missile trails. It was the spark everyone had feared. But then something strange happened. The torpedoes never reached their target. Instead, they stopped mid-flight and exploded one by one in empty space. Back on Earth's fleet, the HFY had silently intercepted every missile with pinpoint shots before they got close. No sound, no flash, just perfect destruction at a distance. Admiral Zorn's smile faded. Before he could react, his ship went dark. The HFY had jammed their entire system in one pulse and disabled their engines without a scratch. The Leviathan moved for the first time in hours. It drifted forward, slow and steady, with the Iron Warden beside it. No weapons fired. But the message was clear. The Varnari fleet began retreating, some even crashing into each other in their panic. To escape on Helver Prime, soldiers watched with wide eyes. General Varen sat down slowly, his hands shaking. President Kelra turned to her advisors again. "No more walls," she said. "Open the channel." She stood before the main transmission screen and took a breath. "This is President Kelra. I wish to speak with the human commander directly." On the Leviathan, the message was received. Grady looked at the screen but said nothing for a while. Finally, he pressed the button to respond. "This is Captain Grady of Earth Command," he said. Kelra nodded slowly. "We want peace," she said. "But we don't understand your silence," Grady replied. "Because words are what failed us before." Kelra looked down. "We made mistakes," she admitted. "We didn't think Earth could fight back." Grady's voice remained calm. "We don't want to lead. We don't want your planets," he said. "But we will never be forgotten again." Kelra nodded again. "Then help us understand." Grady ended the transmission without another word, not out of rudeness, but because the message had already been sent clearly. On Helver Prime, the sky remained dark but peaceful again. And for the first time since the Earth fleet arrived, the city felt. The wind returned to its streets. Far from the main battle zone, a small Varnari freighter drifted through deep space. It had escaped during the chaos, dodging wreckage and silent drones. Inside the ship, Dr. Illyra sat with her hands shaking. She had seen the Leviathan up close, had watched the Varnari fleet fall in minutes, and now she carried something even more dangerous than fear-proof. Illyra was not a soldier. She was a historian who once studied Earth's early messages and transmissions. Long ago, she had believed humans were peaceful, emotional, and slow to act. Now she knew the truth was more complex. She played the recordings again on her console videos of Earth's silence. The HFY stealth strikes, the pod's message. Near the council hall, she whispered into her recorder, "This is not just war. It is memory turned into fire." Her freighter reached an old mining moon, a place where survivors had gathered. The base was abandoned years ago, but now it held refugees, alien officers, soldiers, and even a few council members who had escaped. They called it the Last Hollow. Illyra landed and was greeted by a group of tired warriors. One of them, a scarred captain named Breck, asked, "Did you see it too?" She nodded and showed him the recordings. The room went silent as they watched Earth's precision and power unfold again on the screen. Some covered their eyes, others cursed quietly. "I saw my son's ship vanish without a sound," said one. "Alien General, we tried everything, missiles, shields, flares, and none of it mattered," said another. Illyra stood in front of them and spoke with calm urgency. "We were wrong about humans," she said. "We thought they were slow and kind." "They are," someone said, "but only until they are not." A message from another corner of the room played. It was an old Earth broadcast, peaceful music, followed by words in soft English. "We seek friendship, but we do not forget," it said. Illyra paused the video and looked around. "This is what the council refused to see," she said. "Earth doesn't start wars, but when they are pushed, they never stop halfway." More survivors arrived that night, carrying similar stories. One described Earth drones that learned in battle and returned stronger after each pass. Another spoke of Earth soldiers who didn't shout or rage, but simply did their job with perfect silence. In the center of the room, they created a table using old mining crates and began marking stars on a map. Red dots showed systems Earth had already reached or passed through. Blue dots marked neutral zones still untouched. It was clear. The message was not just for Helver Prime, it was for everyone. "We need to send out a warning," said Breck. Alira nodded. "Yes, one message, across every trade route, every smuggler's path, every hidden moon." They wrote it in simple language. "Do not provoke Earth. Do not forget their silence." It was recorded and sent on hundreds of weak frequencies, so that even scavenger ships could pick it up. They called it the Silence Broadcast. Back on Helvar Prime, the council leaders listened to the same message coming from distant outposts. They recognized Alira's voice and the truth it carried. President Kelra ordered it played in training centers and schools. "Let the next generation understand what we failed to," she said. General Varen, once eager to fight, stood in silence as he watched the map grow red with Earth's spread. "They didn't come to rule," he said. "They came to remind, on the Leviathan." Grady listened to the broadcast from the last hollow. He didn't smile, but there was a calm in his eyes. Rivers walked beside him and said, "The galaxy is changing," Grady replied. "Not changing, just remembering." The Leviathan slowly turned from Helvar Prime and moved toward deep space again. They left no damage behind, no occupation, no demands. Only silence, but in that silence, stories grew. Tales of Earth's precision, of the Ashfall's ghostly movements, of the Leviathan's stillness before storms. Children on distant planets played pretend games where they acted as Earth soldiers, never shouting, only watching. War instructors rewrote their manuals, adding new sections called Human Strategy, and in every corner of the stars, the same warning passed from trader to soldier, from scholar to king: if Earth is quiet, do not make them speak. Dr. Alira returned to her ship and recorded one final message. "I thought I was studying a peaceful world," she said. "Now, I know I was studying a mirror one that shows what we become when we ignore history." She pressed send, and her words joined the silence across the galaxy. Deep below the surface of Earth, hidden in a secure bunker under the Nevada desert, Admiral Briggs stood before a wall of screens. Each screen showed a part of the galaxy red. Flashes, ship movements, silent systems now quiet since Earth's last response. He turned to his staff and said, "They finally remember us." Captain Grady's voice came through the secure channel from the Leviathan. "Helvar Prime has been neutralized without invasion," he said. "No further aggression expected." Briggs nodded with approval. "Bring the fleet back for maintenance and full debrief." Other officers in the room spoke quietly. "Sir, do we know how many of their species will now try to copy us?" Briggs replied, "Almost all of them." He knew the galaxy would not stay silent forever. Even now, spies from different factions were probably studying every move Earth made. But Earth had planned for this too. In another part of the bunker, engineers worked beside scientists on new systems. Earth's technology was not shared, not even with allies. Some believed the most powerful Earth ships were built using tech taken from the first alien ship that crashed decades ago. Others whispered about a secret base on Mars, where gravity itself was being tested like clay. Briggs walked through the labs and paused before a dark room labeled Project Echo. He didn't enter, only looked at it for a moment. That room held Earth's future answers for questions the galaxy had not even asked yet. Meanwhile, back aboard the Leviathan LT, Rivers reviewed mission logs with Goliath. The AI listed success rates, hit ratios, shield performance, and more. Everything was recorded, studied, improved. Enemy shield types scanned and mapped, Goliath stated. Countermeasures updated for future encounters. Rivers looked at the reports and shook her head in quiet amazement. "We're already planning for battles that haven't happened," Grady replied. "That's why we win." The Leviathans crew moved like a single machine, no confusion, no panic, just calm execution. Even the medics and engineers performed their tasks without rush. They all knew their mission was not about conquest, it was about reputation. Earth had no empire. Number colonies outside the solar system, but they held something more powerful than territory fear wrapped in memory. In the Council's private records, hidden from the public, old reports were unlocked. Files marked classified, human contact, were now open for review by top members. Each one told of strange encounters where Earthships appeared, struck fast, and vanished before a proper response could be made. Some leaders began to understand why Earth acted the way it did. Long ago, when they first reached out to the stars, they had been attacked without warning, and humans never forgot that. Now the galaxy began asking itself a question no one had dared before. What if Earth never really wanted peace? But they were wrong. Earth wanted peace more than anything, but not the kind that required weakness. They had learned that to survive among stars filled with empires, you must carry silence like a blade. A secret meeting took place on a neutral moon between Council scientists and Earth's observers. The scientists asked if they could study Earth's weapons, understand their energy patterns. The Earth envoy simply said, "No, why not?" They asked, "We just want knowledge," the envoy answered. "Because knowledge is not free, it's protected." Back on Earth, in classrooms hidden behind normal schools, young cadets trained in strategy that no alien could guess. They didn't just study battles. They studied patience, silence, and how to end fights before they began, in space. Other ships followed Earth's path. Older vessels like the Hammerfall and the Silver Crest were recalled for upgrades. A new class of destroyers was being built, smaller, faster, smarter, not meant to fight large wars, but to stop them before they ever started. Rivers received word from Earth Command. "You are cleared for station return." She nodded and looked at Grady. "Do you think they'll come again?" Grady thought for a moment and said, "Maybe, but not soon." He looked out the main window, watching the stars move slowly as the Leviathan began its return journey. Then he added, "Next time they'll try to copy us." Rivers asked, "Can they?" Grady answered, "They can try, but they don't understand what makes us different. It's not just tech." She asked. Grady shook his head. "It's our reason," he said. "They fight to rule. We fight so we never have to again." And with that, the Leviathan entered deep space, leaving behind only whispers of its presence. On distant planets, leaders met in secret to talk about Earth. Some wanted revenge, others wanted to learn, but most just wanted to be left alone, and all of them now agreed on one thing: never push Earth to speak with fire again. On a quiet asteroid station, hidden in the far reaches of space, a secret meeting was held. The old council was gone, but a few of its former members gathered under shadows in silence. There was no flag, no anthem, only fear and questions. The leaders came from broken empires and bruised nations. Each of them had seen Earth's power with their own eyes, or heard it from trusted voices. They sat around a narrow table, watching recordings again and again. The room was cold, but not from temperature. It was cold with memory. "Can we stop them?" One leader asked quietly. Another responded, "We can try, but we must not copy them. We must become something new." A tall figure stood in the back. His name was Solith, a military strategist from the ruined Varnari fleet. He spoke with a voice that held both anger and fear. "We lost not because they were strong," he said, "but because we didn't understand how they think." He walked to the center of the room and tapped the display. A map of known systems lit up, showing Earth's movements. "They don't spread," Solith said. "They don't occupy. They don't need to," someone replied. "Their silence is louder than our speeches." Solith nodded. "They made a story from fear, and now even our children believe it." He paused and then said something the others did not want to hear. "We should begin our own project, build ships that can fight in the dark, strike without sound." Many disagreed, warning that trying to copy Earth would only end in failure, but a few supported him. In a hidden chamber beneath the meeting room, old technology was stored, scraps from broken Earth drones and damaged weapons recovered after the battle at Helver Prime. Engineers had tried to reverse engineer it for months without success. It was too advanced, too different. Still, Solith believed they could create something new, something built from their own fear. They called it Project Phantom. Meanwhile, on another moon, scholars and scientists debated another question. Why do humans fight so perfectly? One old professor, who had studied Earth culture for years, stood before a class of leaders and said, "They do not fight for glory or power, they fight to stop being attacked." A student raised her hand and asked, "Then why are they so ruthless?" The professor replied, "Because they are not just fighting for now, they are fighting for every time they were ignored, attacked, or underestimated." The lecture ended in silence. Even in study halls, Earth had become the subject no one could explain fully. Back on Earth, the Leviathan returned to its base and was lowered into a hidden dock. Crews worked quietly, removing weapons, reviewing data, and checking systems. Grady stepped off the ship and walked down the long corridor with Lt. Rivers beside him. "Think they'll try again?" she asked. Grady replied, "Not soon, but someone always thinks they're different." Inside the war room, Admiral Briggs welcomed them back. "Well done," he said. The message was sent without a single word shouted. Grady nodded and sat down. "The council is broken, but others are already watching." Briggs showed them a feed of ship movements in distant systems, small, secret, but clear. "Someone is planning something," he said. Grady replied, "Then we prepare again." In orbit above Earth, a new station was being built. It was not large, but it held new tools, new weapons, and something more: early warning systems tied to Earth's deep scan tech. No one on Earth talked about war. People lived their lives, children played, and news stories returned to normal things. But under the ground and high in space, Earth stayed ready, and across the stars, in back rooms and hidden labs, the next threat was forming. But now it moved differently. It didn't laugh at Earth, didn't ignore its warnings. It studied, planned, and waited. In a quiet lab lit by blue lights, Solith stood before his new ship prototype. It looked nothing like Earth's design, more organic, more adapted for stealth and speed. A scientist walked over and asked, "What will you name it?" Solith replied, "We'll call it the Mirror, because even now, the galaxy didn't want to destroy Earth. They wanted to become its reflection. But they forgot one thing. A reflection can never strike first. It only follows, and Earth never waits for a second strike." In the green hills of Montana, far from Earth's hidden bunkers and space docks, Captain Grady stood near a cliff. The wind was soft, and the sky was clear. Below him, children played near a river, laughing as if the stars had never been at war. Grady closed his eyes for a moment. He could still hear the silence of space, still feel the weight of every decision made aboard the Leviathan. But here on Earth, things were different. Here, life went on. Lt. Rivers joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. She handed him one and looked out over the valley. "They'll come again," she said quietly. Grady nodded. "One day, but today we're home," she added, "not far away." A new war memorial had been built. It wasn't tall or made of shining metal. It was simple rows of stone with names carved in different languages, both human and alien. The plaque at the center read, "In memory of all who were lost in silence." People from many worlds had started visiting Earth, not as enemies, but as students, historians, and guests. Some brought flowers. Others brought data drives with apologies written in every code known to the galaxy. Admiral Briggs walked through the crowd one morning. He watched as a group of alien children touched the memorial and asked their parents what the words meant. "It means peace," one mother said. "But peace with strength." Back in orbit, the Leviathan remained docked but ready. Its systems were in sleep mode, but not off. The HFY was never docked. It remained hidden in deep space, moving on silent routes between star systems. Other ships, smaller and newer, began taking patrol routes, but they carried no flags, no bright colors. Only one message on their ID beacons: "Remember, Earth." In the far corners of space, small signals from unknown sources reached the solar system. Some were warnings, some were questions, and some were just silent observations on Mars base. Scientists watched these signals and recorded them in a log called the Echo Report. Every new signal was reviewed, not for fear, but for understanding. "We are not the same humans who feared the stars," said one of the analysts. "We became the reason others fear." Still, Earth never attacked. They watched, waited, and remembered. On a quiet moon near the edge of Council space, a teacher told her students a story. It was about a world that was ignored, pushed, and attacked. A world that stayed silent until one day, it spoke not with words, but with power. She finished the story with a whisper. "That world was Earth," the children asked. "Did Earth want to rule us?" She smiled sadly. No, Earth only wanted to never be heard again, in secret stations. Some still plotted Earth's fall. They believed Earth's silence was a weakness to be broken. But in every plan there was fear. What if the silence broke? Back? Captain Grady returned to the base one last time. He walked the corridors of the Leviathan, now a ship of legend. He placed his hand on the central console and whispered, "Rest now." Ot. Rivers joined him again, holding a small data chip. "This holds everything," she said. "Logs, scans, patterns, reports all locked." Grady nodded. "Let them try to copy it." They left the ship together. The Leviathan's lights dimmed, its hull cooled, and the bay closed around it. Outside, Earth's people celebrated founding. Day the day, Earth entered the galactic stage, but no one threw parades for war. They lit candles, they read names. They told stories, stories of silence and stars, of ships that hovered above without firing, of messages written in quiet acts, not threats. And in those stories, humanity lived on not as conquerors, but as a reminder that silence is not surrender, that peace is not weakness, that Earth may be quiet, but Earth remembers. And if the stars forget again, Earth will speak once more, with silence first, and then with fire.